Right. You go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Flo's First and Favourite. I'm David.
And I'm Blair.
And on this week's episode we have...
Ourselves. Who knew?
Yeah, basically, we as we mentioned in the previous episode, this series we're kind of not doing a series. It's a rolling thing. And with each release on our brand new record label titled First and Favourite, we are going to talk to either a guest who is a feature on a tune or a collaborator, or if it's just ourselves, we will just be here ourselves, just chatting to you for an hour.
Chatting about the tune, chatting about what's happening, see what's going on, see how things are. So, run the track. Perfectly executed. Perfectly executed. So, Dave, it's been a few weeks since Power's been out.
Yeah.
How did you find it? How was the release for you?
Yeah, it's been like a really lovely couple of weeks, actually. Obviously, we've not got our collaborator on the track, His Bitter Truth, on this episode. But we spoke to him in the previous podcast, and hope all of you that have listened to the previous one, you got a sense of how much that track meant to the three of us. And it's just been lovely to see how well it's been received. Yeah.
No, I think it's been good. We've got a good few mixes and interviews and stuff through, which was brilliant. And then, it's just been great. There's been a lot of good reception, and like just friends of mine and stuff have kind of said, "Oh, I see you're back doing releases again," which is just a nice place to be and nice to have stuff out in the public again, I guess.
Yeah, and also massive shout out must go out to all of you SoundCloud people out there.
Oh yeah, big time.
Didn't really think that was still a thing for like up and coming artists. I don't know, man.
Which is weird because there's like a whole thing on like SoundCloud rappers. So they're obviously doing it incredibly well, and there's obviously a bit of an algorithm going there for those who want to, I guess, exploit it in a way, but we didn't expect quite so many plays and stuff there.
Yeah, it was emotional, and and it was kind of crazy, like seeing how far it had reached in the world. We went as far as Vietnam, Indonesia, South America, including places like Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, and various different other places all throughout Europe and beyond. Maybe the moon. I don't know. SoundCloud doesn't show you that sort of insight, sadly, but yeah, it's been like really well received, and super proud to have it as our first release on the new label.
Yeah, and that's also been another thing. It's a fair bit of work getting stuff sorted for a label, but it's worth it. I will say that much. Like, it's nice to see little things growing. Obviously, we don't get like reports on sales or anything till like quarterly. So, it's only been 4 weeks as of point of recording. So, but yeah, so far, like just from what we can see in analytics of stuff I'm quite happy with how it's gone.
Yeah, me too. And it's really nice to see like also people who are sort of in a similar position, young artists starting their own label or their own thing, kind of coming in support of us doing the same. And that's such a nice thing. As people say, dance music is one big community, and that's lovely for us to see.
Aye, big time. So, how's your 4 weeks been, in general?
Yeah, it's been very good, actually. Yeah, just kind of like lots and lots of stuff with work wise, obviously, but in terms of music, like super productive. We've done a couple of mixes. We did one last Friday night. In this here room.
Yeah.
In Blair's new place, which is lovely.
Hence the beautiful plaster work here in the middle for those of you who are watching.
This we have decided tonight, and for all of you listening, this I'll let Blair describe the house, but but we've decided that this area is going to be our podcast area. We immediately fell in love with it. It's got a classic L-shaped sofa.
Yeah, I'm sitting cross-legged.
It's really nice. It's walled in. I feel like I'm in another room from the studio, but it's actually the same room.
Yeah.
Open plan.
The joys of a 70s extension.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved house earlier this year, and to say it's a fixer-upper is a correct representation of exactly what it is. But what's great about it is there's more space for things. There's still loads of stuff to do. Obviously, cosmetic. I mean, ideally for a studio space, even in here talking at times, I can hear a little ring. So there's part of me in that sort of acoustics training that we did where I'm like, wow, I want to fix that. But yeah, it's amazing. And it means we can have space to do stuff like this, which is great. So yeah, it's been nice. And then Dave's back in up north. So we can actually be in the same space. We were actually saying, well, after David described this, the view from the from the main webcam as looking like a porno. This is a creepy. I mean, it is yellow backed, with some 70s curtains on a sofa. So yeah.
Sofa. But yeah, no, honestly, and depending on when you're listening to this, back come tomorrow, Blair and I will have stripped a few walls because we're doing DIY together. We're branching out.
Friend right there.
no,
someone who just offers his weekend to be like, oh, do you need some DIY help? I'll come. I'll help.
And that's the way that things should be. We do each other. We do each other. Maybe on the sofa. No. We're
close, but not that
close. We're socially distanced, as you'll see. So, there's no touching going on here.
No, not at all.
Anyway, we digress. Like, we are here to talk about. We have 2 new releases coming out.
But one release, 2 tunes.
Yeah, 1 release, 2 tunes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting you on a technicality there.
Yeah.
I won't lie.
Yeah.
It's weird to say they're coming out, which is nice. Mm-hmm. You got the dates earlier for one of them.
No, for both of them.
Oh, for both of them.
So both these tunes, and we can do a bit of a drum roll. They're called You and I and Tore It Down. And basically these tunes started, it was actually like really early 2021, and they've just taken a while to kind of fine tweak, and they are finally coming out on the 15th of September 2023.
When was it? 15th, did you say?
Yeah,
September. September the 15th.
September the 15th.
Perfect. It's one for my diary. It's in my diary.
It's in my diary. It's in my diary in my head, which is unreliable at the best of times. But I had a moment of like sheer memory. So
nice.
So that's good. But yeah, it's coming. The release is coming, and we are super excited about it. Again, it's just lovely. We can't wait, basically, to get some more music out there for all of you to hear. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting as well because this one's just us. 2 tunes that we made, which we feel kind of go well together, sort of complement each other, I guess, but not without sounding too much like the same thing. There's a lot more piano in there, sticking to our piano house theme for the time being. Yeah, they're great. I actually listened to them in the car today because I knew we were doing this tonight, so I was like, right, I better actually go back to listen to them because like I think you know, since these tunes have actually been in a near finished state, it's maybe been a year. Maybe.
Yeah. What we tend to find is you can often work on a tune or tunes for a number of months, and then you almost kind of like finish them, and you're like, cool, and then you move on to the next thing, and then you like listen to them, and you're like, oh, this is really great.
Yeah.
Or we really like it, and I think it was very much like that for this release and these two tunes in particular. Like we'd kind of, would you say we forgot about them a little?
Yeah, they definitely sort of slipped into back burner territory, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, to be honest, I think at the time when we were doing both of these, we were actually really just churning a lot of stuff out, and that doesn't always happen. Like, I think that's something else to say, is that like creativity ebbs and flows, and there are some times where, you know, like sports people talk about it as like being hot or having a hot spell, but yeah, there are definitely times with that, with like making music, where you are stuff just is just, you're just, whatever you do, you just seem to really like. So yeah, I don't know any particular reason why they've sat on a shelf, but they're not sitting on a shelf anymore.
Yeah, they are de-shelved. I think it's just like, I think with music, you can kind of get to the point where you feel like, especially when you're in the production and the creative process, you feel like you're basically sort of working on things for ages and ages and ages, and you listen to over and over again, and then you almost kind of get to the point where you finished it, and then you just like, I need to listen. I literally need to listen to something else. And then I think that's often one of the reasons why things kind of end up not getting forgotten about, but just kind of, as we described, shelved for a while.
Yeah. And that's not to say they're not good. That's the other thing you're just touching on. It's like you kind of forget about certain tunes, and then you listen to them again, and or you just kind of do. We tend to do little Spotify playlists from time to time with just like recent finished tunes, and you can just go through it and like, oh yeah, that's good. But then I think as well, like, you can get so attached. Like, if you spend so much time working on something, you get so attached to that one thing that you're almost done with it before it's actually done. So, like, I know I've definitely felt that way about some things where I'm like, I just want this finished. And then because you spent so much time on it, the last thing you want to do is spend any more time listening to it when you think it's done. So, yeah, I feel like we're totally negging our own music here, which is
it's uncharted territory. we're not used to doing this.
We're not used to talking. I'm not used to talking about myself and my feelings.
On this here's L-shaped sofa.
How's things on your side of the sofa?
It's,
Are you okay with your feelings?
Warm, actually, because I'm beside the radiator.
Is the heating on?
I don't know, actually. Oh, no, it's not.
Okay,
It's just quite warm in here, actually.
I was about to have a proper dad moment there.
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? It's only the 1st of September.
But yeah, it's just great. We're so excited for this release to be coming out yet again. It's going to be great, and we're just excited for you all to hear it.
Yeah. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, should we talk about like kind of the first one, which was, it was a tune called "Tore It Down," which just kind of sort of started as an idea very, very early on in 2021, and it sounds a bit like this.
Okay, first of all, that piano line, that was very much you.
Yeah, I'm like, as I said in the previous podcast, like but like both of us, like we're both very sort of like inspired, I would say, by like the 90s house scene, and a big part of that was a lot of piano stuff, and we've always been big fans of melody, both of us, and we've kind of touched on it previously that we do really like good melodies
Yeah.
that kind of stand out as its own like sort of thing. And definitely when I was coming up with the piano for this, I just wanted to create like a sort of, I was going for like a sort of ravey vibe, like sort of quite 90s. And yeah, and it just happened quite naturally. Normally the way that I'll start working is I'll work over like a 2 or 4 bar loop initially, and then I'll get like the sort of like top line maybe done. It varies from time to time, but it might be like I get the top line done with the basic drums, and then just loop it and loop it and loop it until I can get like a nice groove, and then I might bring in a bass line, and then it expands from there really. And I think with this one, from memory, because as I say, it was a few years ago. Like definitely, I remember like kind of coming up with the piano line, and then I kind of like found the vocal quite quickly, and it just seemed to kind of like marry up really nicely. Just used sort of like looping techniques in the vocal a cappella, and yeah, and that just worked really nicely.
Nice. No, I mean, I remember hearing it on the piano, and that being the kind of standout bit was the way the chords go. Yeah, it was great. It made a lot of things that it was easy to then work with. So let's hear a bit more. Right. One thing I want to talk about, my favorite thing possibly about this tune, is that little riser noise.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
Total accident. Well, I'm not really sure. A total accident is the wrong thing. So, going back to our 30th birthdays, yes, we're 30 plus, only just.
Yeah.
Our bio age is 27. And we're sticking to it.
Yeah.
Going back to our 30th birthdays, we gifted each other a bit of electronic equipment each, which was very good of us to each other. But I actually can run over and get it. You can narrate while I...
Okay, I could do it on my own microphone. Yeah. Sorry, I kind of got a bit mesmerised there by the story. And then forgot I had a microphone in my hand. So basically... I'm a couple of months older than Blair, believe it or not. Blair looks like a lot more mature. Sorry, it's a pure dick.
I mean, that is
such a dick. I know.
I know I've got a beard, but calm down.
Yeah, I know. I've always like looked like a wee boy, but but yeah. So anyway, Blair kindly bought me. It's part of Berhinger's range of kind of synthesizers. That they brought out a couple of years ago that kind of emulated old analog synthesizers. So Blair got me it was the Berhinger TD3, which was it was basically all based around the 303, which
Rollins 303.
Yeah, the old acid house sort of synthesizer, analog synth, and. It sounds wicked. It sounds wicked, and we'll maybe do another little touch on that in the future. But for Blair's birthday, I got him the
Berhinger Crave, which I could not tell you what it's based on. If I'm totally honest, it is based on an old synth. but it's semi-modular, so there's like loads of patch ports along the top. You probably can't see that, but it's basically just a one oscillator synth with a filter and a lot of lovely things. There's a nice sequencer on the bottom, which I'll be honest, I really struggle with. I tend to just send this MIDI and then muck about with it. So it took me a long time, but like basically this whole tune was where I was like, I will learn this synth. Like, I'm going to take everything and take the time to get to know it. So I was messing around, and I remember hearing, like, getting it to that kind of almost comb filtery sound where it's like, and I was just like, wow, that's cool. And then I started doing some sort of, there was a pitch modulator switch. I think it's the filter VCF modulation. You can change it from positive to negative, so whether or not the filter is, up above or down below. And I remember flicking that and being like, whoa, this is cool. And then, yeah, it just started sending it things. And then it actually goes down. So it was actually more like a, but I was like, well, that's really cool. I'll just reverse it. And it's used very heavily in this tune, mostly because I was just like, I don't know, like, white noise risers are a great shout. Like, they work really brilliantly for building a lot of tension.
Quite overdone though.
Yeah, I mean, overdone. Yes, yeah. I think yeah.
They work, but like it's so important. We found like having little uplifters and kind of downlifters. I don't know if that's the right term. But like in tracks, because it makes it sound interesting. It creates drama. And that's such a key thing when doing production.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think the more you can make the little things sound interesting, the listen agains.
Yeah,
that's the big thing. Like, I love music where you listen to a track and there's a bit in it you genuinely missed, and to the point that even I was driving somewhere on Wednesday night and we were listening to Neo's album Saturn. And on the tune, actually, Saturn, there's a vocal part in it that I had never actually heard. Like, there's obviously there's four different takes of, I mean, multiple, but do you know what I mean? There was so much. There's 4 different vocal parts happening, and I'd never actually heard this kind of background melody in it, and I was just like, this is incredible. I can't believe it. I've listened to this album for like probably 2.5, 3 years, and I've never heard this bit before. This is way too obvious to miss, so it's not quite that. But like, your ear's probably more tuned into the piano on first listen, so that kind of background won't maybe grab you immediately. But it's bits like that where later in the tune, this does actually do its original thing and dive rather than climb, and that's interesting bit for this was that is how it was intended. That's how it was recorded.
And I guess for all you young producers out there, that's actually quite a good way to maximize your time in the sounds that you've got, because you can actually just use the reverse function, and then it gives you, it basically gives you two different sort of sounds.
Yeah, and they have different effects going from one to the other, so like going up and down. So yeah, but then similarly, because I was trying to figure this out, the kind of organ sound that makes up the second half of this drop bit of the tune, the main theme, is literally, again, this, but what I did was I made one tone and then I pitched it to make a chord. So it's doing the same chord structure, it's just literally pitched to make the chord out of one sound. So it's just copied and pasted to make the chord. So there's maybe one other bit in this which is used on this synth, but I can't think for the life of me what it is. Oh, the ARP. Of course, we'll get there. So should we try and hear some
let's
of the,
skip on a little.
Let's hear the Behringer organ thing. just like to say right now, though, this is not a sponsored thing.
But if Behringer would like to sponsor us, then
We'll happily
take
test
any equipment
We'll test any equipment you want. Genuinely.
and give it a thumbs up. and that goes for any other software or hardware companies.
Here, honestly, most podcasts are sponsored by AG1. What are the other podcasts? What's the men's grooming one again?
Manscaped.
Manscaped.
Yeah.
There you go. See, so like we're not just here for the audio stuff. You know, it's fine. We'll pitch products that have got nothing to do with music.
Teeth whitening, whatever. I'm not fussy, like, and nor is Blair, to be honest.
Yeah,
like anything
just...
that kind of gets us freebies is great.
Pay us money, please. Yeah, thanks. Anyway, so the ARP line, again.
Talk about the breakdown, because from my memory, like when we'd initially come up with the idea, it was very sort of sparsely populated in the main breakdown. So
what was sparsely populated?
Well, just in terms of like it didn't really have a lot in it, like in the build, and obviously what did you do?
Yeah, I mean we're anyone who knows our music knows that we're a bit of a fan of an ARP line. You might not have got that from if you listen to Don't Put Me Down. There isn't one in there. But for example, not Don't Put Me Down, sorry, Open the Door to Your Heart. Don't Put Me Down has a massive ARP line in it. So yeah, we're big fans of that, and I think again I was sort of sending ARP notes to this and was really enjoying the ability to actually turn physical knobs and not just have to like pre-program them in. I think one of the things I'll maybe get this year is like a little controller so that I can do more of that for soft synths. But I've definitely found I've got this from you and I've got the monopoly as well, and I find I'm way more creative to be hands-on. And I think I wish if I could go back and say anything to me however many years ago, when we were starting doing music, it would be go get something like this where you can get hands on, because I genuinely find that just way more interesting. I will tinker about on a soft synth, but clicking a mouse to make things move is just not, I don't get that same interface enjoyment of like turning something and then feeling like it's better or different or whatever. There's a lot of like, you know, sort of when you're using a mouse, you have to nudge bits and then it subtly changes, and then you're like, oh, did that sound better? Did that sound worse? Whereas like you can actually throw a filter on and off and really get into the nitty gritty of it. So so when I was doing this ARP line, you'll hear in the tune the filters opening, the resonance is closing, the actual duration, decay, sustain are all being mucked about with, because it just makes much more of an interesting listen, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess both of us were sort of at the point where sample packs are okay, and there's nothing wrong whatsoever, and we do use a lot of samples, sort of like kind of royalty-free ones, obviously, and ones that are all paid for and such like, which is very important as well, obviously. But what I would say is that like when you create your own sounds or your own little riser, or it's 100% unique to you. Now, someone might be able to emulate it, but if it's on like a synthesizer like the Crave or the TD3 or something like that, they unless they are absolute wizards, they are not going to be necessarily able to create that sound.
Well, the other thing, and it sounds lame because I know loads of people talk about it, but they are analog. So chipsets in themselves, oscillators warm up over time. So it was advised actually in the user manual of the Monopoly to turn it on half an hour before you intend to use it, to let the circuitry warm up, which you wouldn't need with digital stuff, because it's digital at the end of the day. So like even that in itself like there's an element to analog being completely, no two of the same synth sound exactly the same. Like,
That's got a lot of charm to it.
yeah. So just kind of threw an art plane in to help build, because the chords make a bit of a change in structure. And yeah, I think it works. So let's hear some of it. Why not? So it's still, like the art plane's still running there. And you can still sort of hear it dancing around in the background. I'm just thinking there, I think part of the reason we come back in with the organ on the second drop is the art plane didn't sit as well over the actual piano sound.
Yeah.
Because they're like way too in the same frequency range.
Yeah.
So like, I think that was where that's a bit more kind of low and mid, shall we say?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I think as a decision, it was just, let's go in with that and let the art do its thing. So yeah, classic build, snare drums, all the rest of that jazz. Good times.
And then big drop as well. And then if we play a little more, you'll get to hear that, as we said, that the basically the arp and the sort of like organy sound kind of drops, and then it cuts back into the piano, which is also that's really good to do, and it just switches up. It keeps it interesting for the listener, which is very, very important.
Yeah. What, you want to hear some more? Oh wait, here's my favorite bit. The classic tape stop.
Yeah, that's the bit I'm talking about.
Oh.
I'm trying to get to.
Right.
Discuss the effect.
Right. There we go again, right? So
Do a
let's
wheel
just
up.
Wheel up. So what is, Dave, for the viewers and listeners at home, what is a tape stop?
Tape stop's just like it's basically like what you would do in sort of
It's more a vinyl stop.
Yeah,
really,
is it
isn't
a vinyl stop? You would do that in like old analog kind of equipment, and it just it has a great impact. Firstly on a song, but it kind of it just makes you think, oh, I wasn't really expecting that.
It basically emulates if you were listening to a vinyl record, hitting start stop to stop it, but obviously the turntable itself will continue to turn by its own motion, but it's no longer being driven by the motor. So what happens is it slows down. So you get that kind of do 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 effect where the beats slow in themselves, but what that generally does is it means that the kind of frequency range feels like it filters down, and then it just, the good thing to do there is just go down into the thing and then kick it straight back up again.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I cue it up perfectly? Probably not. Let's see it. And then there's that little beepy on the down.
Yeah.
Doo! For effect. Perfect.
Just a little tonal.
Cool. And then anything else of note in this tune?
Not particularly. I mean, it does the classic drop down to just the kick with a vocal.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're outro basically from there on out. Minute and a bit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Sweet. Round of applause. I guess that was Tore It Down.
That's Tore It Down.
Peach. All right.
And then for the next one on the release called You and I, we thought we'd kind of switch up and do something slightly different for this one. We thought we'd actually like show you a bit of like the session.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that we can't get the latest version of the tune for Tore It Down open. We've not been here for the better part of 3 hours. Screaming at both of my computers.
I know, I was trying to be super diplomatic there.
Basically, we've been let down by my own technology and
a certain soft synth.
Yes.
Which was causing a number of issues, but we won't name it because they might endorse us.
They might, and it's probably,
it'll be the best synth ever. We love
I know, and we use it a lot, which is why it's even more frustrating and slightly concerning for other things. But hey ho. But yeah, we've got the session for this here, which is decent. So I should be able to like flick over if I go like this. He says, look, there you go. Here's the session. All right, sweet. So what do you want to talk about, Dave?
Well, should we start in the drums and just kind of maybe go into
what's happening in there?
Yeah.
Oh, I need my keyboard on my lap as well. Hold on. Okay. The kick drum's not there because I didn't freeze it before we got there. So this is the joys of my laptop, people. So imagine a big kick drum behind, but what else have we got going on here?
Yeah, we use generally bassism for our kicks, so the majority of our kicks. And then what's quite good to do as well, stick a top kick as well, just in there, just for a little bit of kind of that top click of a kick. And I think actually we used a kick sample from the Purple Disco Machine a sample pack on this one. If
you can hear that,
yeah.
Hold on. Turn the volume up. Oh, there's quite a lot of reverb on that.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of reverb, and it's obviously it's basically scooped right up to about 700 hertz.
Yeah, it looks about there.
About 700 hertz.
That's super nerdy audio content
I
there.
know, sorry about that. And also, if you want to be even more nerdy, you're like basically knocking the sort of start of the transient off of the kick as well, because you don't want obviously that kind of battling with the bassism kick, which is obviously your kind of body kick. And then we've actually gone for, so we've got an 808 clap. Normally we'll sort of go for samples or certainly a lot of samples within Ableton itself. They've got quite decent samples.
Yeah, they do.
Just within, so you don't actually need to spend a lot of money buying loads and loads of sample packs and such like. And there's various different things, and there's a wee delay clap. There's a white noise clap. There's a 909 hi hat open. There's
You're gonna list everything that's
there's
in
a
here.
rattle hat, whatever that is.
The rattle hats. That's
the classic.
That's probably a bit of me right there.
Yeah, it's a wee rattle hat. It's kind of more a tambourine, to be honest. But and then just like
that's a tambourine. That's
and then just to kind of like bring it all together and add a wee bit more body, you've got in there like a little house loop. And again, you're sort of like scooping out the majority of the low end. But what we used to feel guilty about was doing stuff like that before, like putting other samples in to kind of beef up your drums. But actually, over time, we've thought there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like it just gives you like a bit of extra like oomph.
I think when I was watching some, you kind of watch producer tutorials and all the rest of that, and I was watching quite a few of them, and then being like, this is really weird because they were mostly loops and then like one or two bits of percussion that they were doing themselves, and I was like, weird. And I think a lot of that was cultivated by me. I grew up playing drums, so I always thought like, well, I can do this myself. But like the processing and everything, compression, etc., that are done on loops, you can throw them in and immediately get a kind of feel for what you're going for. So yeah, use them. Don't be ashamed. They're there to be used. Use every trick in the trade to get you there, basically, is what I would say. Just, it's not cutting corners. If you can get to a more creative space quicker, do it. That would be my advice. Also, interestingly, I was looking at this. I'm trying to figure out a way we can zoom here, Dave, because I know we're both like leaning forward, trying to see this much bigger. Okay, but the one thing I was going to say was up the top here. One of the things which actually helped me a lot was putting in a reference tune, and then noting on that, like a track I like the structure of, noting in along the top. Here I've done it in MIDI blocks and just named them, or you did, or did I do that? I'm not sure.
That was you, I think.
And basically what I did was I used that to mark out, right, well, this is how long their intro is. Here's a breakdown. It's this long. Then their drop lasts this long. Then breakdown 2 lasts this long. Drop 2 lasts this long. Outro. And like what that meant for me was when I was struggling to kind of get a feel for how a club track should be structured. Especially that you want it, so the main thing is you want it to be DJ friendly so that DJs will play it, to be totally honest. I concern myself with this a lot less now, to be honest, because I think a good tune's a good tune, and having DJ'd in the past, I will play something with a 4-bar intro if I think it's good enough. You just find a way. You find a way, but there is definitely times where you reach for the things that you know well, and the structure follows a fairly solid structure. So yeah, just a wee tip for if you can't figure it out, or you want to know more of how to do it, just put a reference tune in, make MIDI blocks, name them, and then just put that at the top, and it will tell you or give you an idea of a structure that you like based from another track, basically. Cool. Let's talk bass. Let me solo this, and we'll go back to the view. So what was this bass? Do we know?
So this bass basically, no pun intended, followed the actual lead line, the piano line, because with piano house in particular, I've certainly tried, and Blair's probably been the same, where you have a piano line and you try and do a completely opposite bass line. Sometimes it works beautifully, but sometimes it actually like just works really well where the bass line kind of follows the...
Yeah, it's like the root note.
Yeah, basically the root note, and it that was very much what happened in this instance. Like it just worked. Like and there's no shame in that. It's very basic. Like there's a lot of use of the word bass here because we're talking about the bass, but yeah, it kind of it does what it needs to do.
Yeah,
in this tune.
Shall I turn this up and we can hear it a bit? Let's see.
And this was a silent bass, I think.
I mean,
from memory,
I'm not. I can only see audio, which makes me wonder.
Yeah, so as I say, I think this was I think this was Silent from memory, and that's for all of you that don't know, that's a really kind of reliable VST that you can kind of purchase, and it's got a range of different kind of obviously good presets, but you can also kind of design your own sounds in it, and it's it's just really quite decent.
Yeah, solid. It's analog modeled synth. Looks very analog when you open it as well. But absolute brute and is used in a lot of our, especially for bass lines, we use it a lot. I'm going to skip over strings because the audio is not there, which is great. It's there on my PC, literally 2 meters that way. Not even 2 meters, probably less than a meter that way. But yeah, that is doing this was you through and through, that sort of very 90s individual stab of the
of the
string.
string.
Yeah, which just provides like pace and good vibes.
It's good. It's good feeling. It's very it's that sort of good feeling that you got from that sound in the 90s.
What we can do is I can play you a string riser. Solid.
Yeah, solid. Quite dry actually.
It's
like
very
it doesn't
dry, actually.
Doesn't have a lot of.
It's literally got no processing on it apart from an autopan.
But I think probably that's been one that we've sort of frozen and stuff like that, and then it's just been sort of consolidated or something like that, and because that's another top tip as well. To save in your processing power, you can freeze your channels, and then basically it kind of then if you've got like loads and loads of plugins on there, it then basically just kind of creates like an audio file, and it kind of saves a wee bit on your processing on your and it's less CPU intensive.
Yeah, you're basically sticking it to the track, which is great. So again, similarly, and I don't know why, but the sample is offline for the piano, which is quite annoying.
But anyway, should we come out of the actual Ableton session, because this is
let's do that.
This is a bit disappointing for all of our viewers and listeners at home. But we can play you the sort of final version of it, or snippets, and talk about that a wee bit more. Bear with us, folks. This is our very first time actually doing this in person. We've done quite a few podcasts now, but they've all been virtual. And we're also using some new applications in order to do this.
Yeah, we're working out the kinks live.
Yeah.
The classic. We'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live, and it's live.
Okay, so let's cut in to where we can hear some piano. So about 1 minute 21. Let's go. Banger.
That's quite good, actually. Thing to do as well is just do that little drum roll like in amongst your drop, because it then like lets the listener know that there's a new element coming in, i.e. the vocal.
Yeah, I remember hearing when you put these in, and I was thoroughly impressed, because I was like, shit, I love a drum roll. Like, I absolutely love, and the fact that like most, and we should do this more, but most drum parts in dance music just do like a snare roll or like a clap roll, essentially. But like not that often do you actually hear it run round toms, unless it's like a kind of more tribal-y thing. So the fact that this is an actual what feels like a live drummer fill is brilliant. So I loved that about this tune. So yeah, thanks for doing that. So that was not a vinyl stop. That was more of a filter down.
Yeah.
Just to disseminate the difference.
Yeah, it could have actually been it could have been like something like Shaper Box. I can't really remember, to be honest.
This predates our Shaper Box days.
Yeah, but like other synths are available or other VSTs are available, but there's lots of different ways that you can do that, like using filters and stuff like that.
Yeah, aye. It's a good wee effect to just kind of keep things moving. Are we hearing the string here? I think we are. It's really subtle, but it's there in that when the breaks come in. There's that.
It's very classic sounding, and it gives you that feeling of euphoria. Like you just want to put your hands in the air. Like that's what it does for me. When I hear that sound, big piano sound, and then you've got your sort of string stabs over the top.
Aye, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. Okay, should we cut forward to the breakdown?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that sound.
So initially, like, we kind of toyed with this a wee bit because, like, it was that from the original session, it was that synth and that sound. But obviously, in the end, because initially it was like more an acid house bass that we used, but I think it was just more sort of like distortion that we'd added onto it.
Yeah, that was much more of a sort of main bit of the track, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't really sitting like well with the piano, and that's where we went to that bass that was much more the root note. But we really liked it. And we thought that this octave above what the main part of that sort of 303 was sounded great in the breakdown. So we were kind of like, well, let's keep it. Which we were then able to kind of work right its way into the rest of the tune, which, I remember feeling like it was when it had both the top and bottom part of that 303 that, it was like a bit jarring, but for some reason you took the bottom out where it was, as you say, well more squelchy and distorted, and the top just sort of it fitted nicely. It's just like another line, and I think we're like, whether we mean to or not, we're very big on like this section sounds like this, and then this other section sounds the same but with something new.
Yeah, I think, and we said it like earlier on in the podcast, like, but it's so important having other aspects and different things, not to completely change the track necessarily, but just other aspects to draw the listener's ear in.
Yeah, for sure, and this is one of them. So, let's listen a bit more to the breakdown. There's your strings again. So yeah, that sort of 303 line is just dancing along nicely with the piano.
100%. And you might have heard that it kind of like goes from the drop, and then we actually, unlike a lot of drops where they cut out the build or the build synth, for impact, we've actually kind of kept it in, kind of deliberately in the main drop, just because it just kind of keeps it moving. It adds a lot of pace, I think. To the
Yeah,
track.
definitely.
Keeps it moving.
And then we move into a slight change if I shuffle forward a touch. Ooh, teasing. Yeah, the kind of kick drum bit, it's always very hands in the air, isn't it? And then to lead with a with a snare roll, to then be like, oh no, not yet.
And then bring it in. I know, but it's kind of it's teasing the listener, but like it also works quite effectively. I think,
Yeah,
in this
totally,
track.
totally.
And as Blair said there, that when you just drop it down to a kick, it always seems to just make people go mental, like, regardless of the tune.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many things I can think of where I've been on nights out and it just cuts back. You're like, yes. I don't know why it does that, but it does. So, or just does that to people in general. But love it, absolutely love it. And then from here we kind of get another like sort of mini breakdown. Which
We're
is
definitely on the wind down by this point. Sort of thing.
yeah. What's weird is though that we have 3 kind of little breakdowns in here. We don't do that very often.
No, but this is another thing as well. Like, don't be afraid to like kind of break the
Totally.
break the mold, because whilst it's good having things that like definitely fit the kind of standard sort of layout of a track, there's nothing wrong with kind of going a bit off or left field, on things.
Yeah, totally. I mean, music is what you make it, quite literally. So, go do whatever the hell you like. Yeah, it's all for people's enjoyment, and as long as you're enjoying it, people will enjoy it. That's generally
We're enjoying it.
Exactly. Right, let's hear some more of this breakdown. There you go. One big last blast after some breaks as well. That's well, there's another thing to call out. We don't often use breaks in our kind of drums, but I think they fit this really, really well.
We did in Holding On.
We did actually. Yeah, you're right.
And no, we didn't in the sound. No, I don't think we did. But Holding On, definitely we did. And
that's true.
And you can't beat a classic Think Break. Like it's just great for house music.
Yeah, just like most breaks in general. Like they do add such a kind of gritty element to it. There's that kind of sampled thing, which is just great. So
and you just scoop them like in
Aye.
the EQ frequency range, and then it just adds kind of like, even if it's not got much substance to it, once you've EQ'd it can still add like a great deal to your drum mix in general.
yeah, amazing. There's just so much fun to play with as well. Like, especially if you cut them up and sort of switch them around. Yeah. But yeah, there you go. 2 tunes coming at you in 2 weeks.
15th of September. They're going to be available.
I know, literally everywhere. I mean everywhere. Yeah. Wherever you get audio.
Yeah. And I believe TrackSource exclusively. Again,
I think so.
Who knows? But anyway, shout out TrackSource. shout out Beatport.
Yeah.
Shout out Bearhanger.
Bandcamp as well. Let's not forget, if you want to really support us, if you want to hold on to some till the end of the month, or the start of the month, when there's Bandcamp Friday and everything, they remove their 20% and everything comes straight to us, which would be really appreciated if you could. But hey, don't let that put you off just buying it in general. So feel free to buy it in general, or just stream it. You know what? Times are tough.
Yeah, but buy it, because Blaine and I need paint to paint this house.
It's true. If you want this place to look less yellow and less covered in brown plaster, then please buy our music.
Thank you.
That would be great. We might actually end up having to get like some actual artwork or something on the wall behind us.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to see if my head was good, but it's not
You're
that
blending into the plaster.
I know. But yeah, no, seriously, thanks very much for listening once again.
Yeah, thank you for making it this far. If you did, it was a bit different. Usually we're interviewing people and we're hearing a lot about them and kind of telling little stories here and there, but this was very different for us. And yeah, there should be 1, 2, Dave pointing your camera, 3 camera views to choose from if I do my job properly. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what your thoughts are. Hit us up on social medias on literally everything as
at We Are Flows.
Spot on. Yeah, and we'll see you there. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Do all the good stuff. Click a notification bell. What else is it that people say on the internet? Just have a nice
give it
time.
Low. They always do that on YouTube. You know, ring the bell.
Dave's got his ding-a-ling out. No, actually, don't worry.
No, they can quite clearly see.
Well, there'll be some audio listeners wondering what this porno couch has been doing. And on that note, I think we'll end it there. So thanks very much for listening. Tune in probably 6 weeks time ish
for the next one.
Yeah, have a good few weeks and we'll see
Be
you
safe out there. Take care. Big love.
Ciao for now. Bye.